The draft is in the books. How sober are we? We doing all right? I'm good. Pat? No, Pat's slugging drinks right now.
Yeah. I was
Ross,
trying to get there.
No comment.
I'm having
from
a
Ross.
Sierra Nevada,
right.
but it's the first one. I got to be at Churchill Downs at like 7:30 tomorrow morning. So,
all right. Well, you get that done.
Horse guy. That's right.
Horse guy. They always do
Horse
early in
season.
the horses.
Horse season, isn't it?
Horse season.
It is.
Not a lot of sobriety in downtown Detroit tonight.
Yeah, how was
my
that,
God,
Dan?
what a throng.
Take us
Holy-
inside the 150,000 in downtown.
Oh, no. 275,000.
Wow.
Yeah, they went friggin' Woodstock.
I told you they were going to turn out.
This is
I think they
crazy.
counted the people at Ford Field and all over the. I don't know where that 200. So I took a picture. When I parked, I had this. My parking garage had a view right over, and I took this picture. And I was talking to this guy at the NFL. He's like, "Yeah, we think it's gonna be 150,000." I'm like, "Dude, it's 2.5 hours before the show, and there's got to be 100 out." I mean, I don't know how the heck do you count 100? You know, I have no idea how to estimate these things, but I'm like, I think you're gonna get more than 150. That was a lot of people. I told you that, like, Detroit's just like, it's got a lot of people. It's a big city, but then it's like got an inferiority complex. So, and nothing else to do. So they're all going to come up for this. It's like the perfect combo of a madhouse crowd.
Yeah, it's a great chance to strut your stuff a little bit. You got and your team's on the rise.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's unbelievable.
They will break Nashville's record of 600 for the whole draft. 275. There were people just everywhere. People down there at 8 a.m. I mean, it's you can get like 1 million or whatever for a parade, but that's like spread out. You know, this is all in like one thing, and I think as you saw, like I said, there was no frills to this. They just threw it in an empty parking lot and said, "Here we go.
Yeah,
Welcome to Detroit."
The fans persevered through that really awkwardly painful opening where Roger Goodell tried to act, and then Marshall Mathers comes out, and then like 5 different Lions players come out, and they all just go, "Yeah, Detroit!"
Jared Goff.
Like, okay.
Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Did Eminem take the stage? Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I was driving, but I was listening to it on the radio, and I thought I heard Eminem.
Yeah, Marshall Mathers, yes.
Yeah, I don't think they planned that out. Guys will get them hyped up. This is all they yelled. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was like one guy after another comes up and goes, "What up, Detroit?" "Yeah, Detroit." "All right, Detroit." Okay.
When you cover the draft, as Ross knows, and I don't know, Pat, if you ever covered, when you're just in like a workroom. I didn't see any.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. Yeah.
You're there, but not there.
It's kind of similar to what Dan and I just covered in a lot of ways. When you're in the media center of like the Masters or a lot of golf tournaments, you don't, when you're out, I should say, when you're out on the course, you don't know sometimes what's going on in the tournament. And the draft kind of feels like that when you're in draft room. Sometimes you don't see everything.
Yeah.
Kind of stinks to cover.
There's more exciting things to cover, but it was a great night. A lot of guys, a lot of tears, moms. I always like I'm a sucker for the living room video. Mom crying or whatever.
How about how about the mom who was asked on national television, how far her family had come, as in like figuratively, how difficult of a path this was. And she said, "We came from Baton Rouge, Louisiana."
Yeah.
That was amazing. It's going viral. It's caught on. It's just amazing. I think that was Brian Thomas's mom, I think.
Yeah.
It was spectacular. We come from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yeah. Your question may get a literal answer. And there it was.
Well, that's a lot. Hey, that's a lot of miles from Detroit, Dan.
This Darius Robinson's grandma, they got picked in Arizona, and she's like, "Hey, we're going somewhere warm."
Yeah.
This is great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
No, they're always fun. I enjoy them. The little backstories, the whole thing. Terrion Arnold giving his Alabama jersey to his high school janitor. Promise. You see that little video? Yeah.
Yeah. He had the pink tuxedo. That was flashy.
Yeah, Terrion looking good. All right, so the story of the draft to me is this Falcons pick at 8.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Penix. Now, we love Michael Penix here. We're big Michael Penix. Once Ross learned how to properly, after the unfortunate mispronunciation.
Penix. Penix.
Rarely can I make fun of anyone for mispronouncing anything.
I feel like before that one pod, I was just sitting there before we started and going pin.
But
you have no room, Mr. Tulane.
I can't say anything, but I got Penix right, and I'm glad. It never once dawned on me to say whatever it is I'm not even going to say it. The Atlanta Falcons needed a quarterback. Desmond Ridder didn't pan out too well for him, but they were actually pretty good last year. They won 7 games, even with Ridder throwing 12 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. They needed a quarterback. Last month, they go sign Kirk Cousins, right? Steady, above average, veteran QB, 4-year deal, up to $180 million, $100 million guaranteed, most of it in the first 2 years. They're set. They got their quarterback. And so when it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL, you do one of two things. You pay big money for a proven veteran, and then you deal with the consequences of that salary against your salary cap. And you go, well, we're going to have to carve out a lot of money for QB, but we're going to make it because it's the most important position on the field. Or you draft a quarterback and you bask in the extra money you have while they're on this rookie deal. And then eventually you may either pay him or you don't. But there's great value in either having a young quarterback or an established expensive quarterback, one or the other. It is one or the other. The Atlanta Falcons decided to do both. It's a strategy. What is it? It's a strategy there, Cotton, right? Something like that. What's that?
Bold strategy there, Cotton.
Yeah, bold strategy there.
Bold strategy indeed. Where's this money coming from, man? They just, damn.
Penix won't cost them anything, but they already have a quarterback. You can only play one quarterback. You cannot play 2 quarterbacks at once. You can play 2 tight ends. You can have 2 running backs. You can have obviously the other position. You can have 2 centers, although you can move them over to another position. So they now have 2 guys. So they took the number 8 pick in the draft, where you could get a difference maker on offense. Could have had a wideout. Could have had anything they wanted. Line. Could have Brock Bowers. Could have had anything you wanted. Didn't need Brock Bowers, obviously, but you get any, or you get an edge rusher. You could do this, or you could trade the pick, move down, and get extra guys, and bolster the roster so that Kirk Cousins goes on and has a chance to win the NFC South and make a run of the playoff. You make a move for the 2024 team. Instead, they spend the pick on Michael Penix. And the reasoning is this is their succession plan. He will eventually succeed. Penix is going to be 24 years old next year. That means he's not going to be a starter until he's like 26, 27. The guy played 6 years of college football. He started 45 games. He threw 1,800 passes. He's about as experienced as there's ever been a guy to come out. This isn't like a 21-year-old project who had 1 season ago. I'll give him a couple years. He also was the 8th pick. Jordan Love was 21 and coming out of Utah State. Michael Penix has played at the highest level. If you aren't ready soon, you don't pick that guy at 8. What the hell are they doing, Pat?
It is interesting. It is a bold strategy. You know, I don't think being a first-time starter at age 26 is too old. I mean, I'm looking right now at Kirk Cousins, as a matter of fact, who's a 5-year college guy, played very little his first 3 seasons in the NFL, and then has been a starter for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight seasons. And then just got a big fat contract going into his 10th season as a starter and his 13th in the league. And, so I'm okay with putting Penix on the bench for a couple of years, and then, all right, the guaranteed money kind of rinses out with Cousins, and then you'll see, is Penix good enough or not? Now, absolutely, they could have played this other ways and done other things with that pick. Rome Odunze went in the next pick, and congratulations to Caleb Williams. You now get to throw to him in Chicago. So they could have gone wide receiver there. They could have gone defense. They could have gone offensive line. There were 1 million offensive linemen taken in this draft. So they had options, and that's the one they chose. As you said, we are a pro Penix podcast. So I think he's going to be a good NFL player. Are we going to see him for a couple years? Probably not. But I don't think that's the end of the world for Penix or even for Atlanta.
Terry Fontenot, the GM, said, he came out and kind of said Cousins is the quarterback, and we're excited about Kirk, and Michael is the future. Penix will be 28 when Cousins' contract expires. Kind of a interesting stat there. Speaking of his age, talking about his age a little bit. Just kind of a shocking thing. I saw some reporting maybe from ESPN about how they alerted Kirk Cousins. They called him maybe when they were on the clock to tell him, hey, by the way, we're about to pick Michael Penix in the draft, and apparently he was quite stunned at that news, and so was his agent.
So I just don't. They're basically following. They talked the Atlanta Brain Trust had talked about how hard it is to get franchise quarterbacks. So they, everyone looks at the way Green Bay's done it, and what Green Bay's done has been amazing. Brett Favre, then they draft Aaron Rodgers. He sits for 3 years, then he becomes Aaron Rodgers. Then they draft Jordan Love, and he sits for 3 years, and now Jordan Love looks like a franchise guy. And they basically had a franchise QB since 1993, and everything works great. But they used the 24th pick on Rodgers and the 26th pick on Love. And at the same time, rather than they did get a guy, but they also could have added players there. I mean, Rodgers was quite upset they didn't add a wide receiver or something that could help the offense. And really, in this whole time, they've won 2 Super Bowls. It is nice to win 2 Super Bowls. Most teams would be quite pleased with the Packers. But you're talking about you had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and you won 2 Super Bowls. Now, would that extra guy have helped? Probably. But those guys were in the 20s, not number 8. Now, there was this run on QBs. 6 guys in the first 12. Caleb Williams 1. Jaden Daniels 2 goes to Washington. Caleb Williams, you said, going to Chicago. New England takes Drake May. Then you have Penix at 8. J.J. McCarthy goes to Minnesota to replace Kirk Cousins at 10. And then Bo Nix from Oregon goes 12 to Denver. Thoughts, Pat?
Yeah, that sounds like he has some thoughts.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Oh, now all of a sudden, Bo's 24 already. So he must be, it's too old now. Yeah.
No, I don't care about his age. I just don't know whether he's flat good enough. And I do know this, that this was a nauseating draft if you're a Denver fan. Nauseating. Because you're taking a quarterback who's maybe going to be good, who's the 6th one in the round. And the next pick, Brock Bowers, who I think is pretty damn close to can't miss, goes to the Raiders. And then at the end of the most unbelievable thing of the entire first round to me is Xavier Worthy, the fastest guy in the draft, goes to the Chiefs. And the Bills enable it. The Bills trade the pick to Kansas City. The Kansas City has haunted the Bills. And like, let's give the best coach on earth with speed some more speed, and we'll trade down. And they don't need it because Stephon Diggs, no, we got rid of him. Like, why would they need any playmakers? That is unbelievable. So the AFC West got a lot better, and I'm not sure Denver did, and they're already the worst team in it.
Yeah, the Xavier outside of the obviously the Michael Penix Kirk Cousins situation, the Xavier Worthy thing going to KC was one of the probably the next most noteworthy thing in the first round. Talking about a weapon for Mahomes. Speaking of weapons, Dan, did you see what old Jim Harbaugh said about weapons today?
No.
Well, in typical weirdo, bizarro Jim Harbaugh fashion.
Colorful.
Yeah, sure, colorful, sure.
I say weirdo's fine.
Yeah, he said, quote, offensive linemen, we look at them as weapons.
Sure.
When we talk about attacking on offense, offensive line is the tip of the spear.
There we go. Well, they got an absolutely giant tip of the spear, 6'9", 321, Joe Alt.
Yeah, I think he's a weapon. Force trauma.
I love Harbaugh's just old school approach to offensive football. You know,
yeah,
it's great.
Oh.
It's refreshing, kind of. It really is.
So let me see what the Bills got out of this. They got the number 95 pick and the number 221 to give the Chiefs Xavier Worthy. So, yeah, if I'm the Bills, I'm a Bill fan. I'm not happy with this at all. If only because it's the Chiefs.
Yes, exactly.
You get that call. What is it? 816 out there, whatever it is.
Yeah. You
answer that thing. House of Pizza.
Goes to voicemail.
Hang it up. You don't take any of their deals. I don't care if they want to swap Mahomes. You don't even talk to them.
No. And good God, you've just watched them flail around for some other receiver other than Travis Kelce. And now, let's give him the fastest guy, Tyreek Hill Jr. It's unbelievable.
Gee, but do they know how to use a really fast guy?
No, Andy Reid has no idea. Can't scheme up anything there.
So they did that. Then they picked up number 60. What did they pick up? They got number 141 from the Panthers to move back one spot. That's fine. All right. If you were going to say right now, I think the stat is accurate. It's because, we had 6 QBs, right? The 2021 and 2022 NFL drafts. I'm pretty sure this is accurate. I think those are the 2 years. There were 2 quarterbacks of all the quarterbacks drafted in those 2 drafts. And there were 5 first rounders in the top 15 in 2021. Right. But you're looking at Zach Wilson, you're looking at Trey Lance, you're looking at Justin Fields, Matt Jones, right? All that. But all the way through those 2 drafts, only 2 quarterbacks are starting for their team. And I think maybe even with their team anymore. 2. One was Trevor Lawrence, first pick, 2021. The other was Brock Purdy, last pick. 2022, right? 2022. That's it. So it all sounds good right now. You got yourself a franchise quarterback, right? We went up and got the franchise quarterback. Truth is, nobody can predict these quarterbacks, and doesn't seem like this 7-on-7 kind of products are really panning out quite well. There's something wrong with the development of quarterbacks when those are your 2 guys. But if we're going to sit here 3 years from now and say, this is the guy I think will be the best quarterback of those 6 that have been picked tonight, right? Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix. Who you got? Ross?
I got the guy we just talked about in the story of the draft. I think it's Michael Penix. I'm a Michael Penix guy. I think he's the he's the best, quarterback that I, probably saw in person this year, or he did the best things that I saw in person. He did the most impressive things that I saw in person. And while that obviously doesn't mean everything, for me, it does. And that's what and you just hear a story. We talked about his age, right? And we hear how mature he is, and you hear about some of the things at Washington from the people at Washington. And I know obviously that Kirk Cousins is there, but I think it's Michael Penix. I think Atlanta drafted him for a reason. It's because he's really, really good. I haven't seen anybody. We talked about this in the pod before. The 30+ yard passes. I haven't seen any other quarterback put it on the money like that on deep passes since Joe Burrow. So give me Michael Penix.
I'm going to answer it this way, Dan, that I'm going to say the guy that I think maybe isn't the best right this minute, but will end up being the best, even though he's got some questions, is Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams is the supreme talent. I think there was a reason he was the clear number one. He does all the things you would love to see a quarterback do. The question with him, he's just got to mature. He's got to grow up some, and there's nothing wrong with that. He played 3 years of college football. He's probably a little overly emotional. He holds the ball too long because he's trying to make plays, because it's like, hey, watch what I can do here. But those things you can learn those things. You can it's not that hard to grow up. But secondly, you can learn to drop, set, throw. I don't think that's a inconquerable sort of thing. So I really like Caleb Williams. I would have taken him number one. And I think he's could end up being an absolute star.
Yeah, those are my guys too. I'd like to try to make the case for Jaden Daniels, but I'm not sure. And I was the Jaden Daniels wins Heisman. I built the bandwagon, but I agree. I think Penix was probably the best quarterback. He's one of the better quarterbacks I've seen, and it was why the early criticism was about why'd you sign Kirk Cousins. Because you could have Michael Penix at $100 million, and see what you got. I think Caleb Williams is super talented, and I love the way so many of the different plays, and I think he will translate into the NFL. I don't know about Jaden Daniels. I don't know how durable he's going to be if he's trying to run. I do not know about Drake May. And we'll get to this, but man, I was watching the McAfee part of the there's like 10 broadcasts now, right?
Yeah.
There's broadcasts all over the place, but they had Belichick on, and Belichick kind of ripped the pick, which was pretty interesting. He basically said, like, Drake May compares himself to Josh Allen. Josh Allen's a heck of a player here. And then he went in on how Drake May just bails out on routes too quick and waits for guys to be super open. And he had all this really good insight on it. McCarthy, I have no idea.
Yeah, no. To me, I think he's the biggest risk. Him and Nix both.
He's the X factor of this thing.
Yeah.
Surprised he went as high as he did.
Yeah, I was too.
They're desperate for quarterbacks. If you don't have one, you're done.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Obviously, incredible leadership. You had Russell Wilson, man.
He used to. Yeah, he was great.
How'd that go?
Two wonderful seasons with him.
JJ, I don't know. JJ McCarthy, the leadership's there. There's obviously he's athletic, makes some incredible throws, but he didn't have to make a million throws. I'm not sure what we can glean from his college tape. You know what I mean? Not that I'm watching tape, but just watching him. You didn't sit there and go, oh, there you go. This guy.
Like you said, he wasn't asked to do a lot of the things that all these other quarterbacks were asked to do, like that we're talking about, right? Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, even Bo Nix. I mean, he of the group, right? He was probably Drake May too. He was asked the least of. So there's a little more, I guess, uncertainty about him. But I'll tell you this, I mean, I think we all watched a fair share of Michigan all season. But specifically his accuracy at short and intermediate passes, especially like crossing routes, it's really impressive. That will go a long way in the NFL. But there is a little bit of more question marks about him in his future than the others, just because he wasn't asked to do as much as the others.
Yeah, they had in big games. He had a couple of throws per game. Like, so I can think of one from the Ohio State game, just springs right to mind. Like, I don't know how he fit it in. I mean, into a very small window for a touchdown. And he made a couple of them that are like, whoa, that's big time. But he also spent a lot of time handing off to Blake Corum and, playing off of play action like that. And you get drafted 10th, you're going to a team that's not that good. And so can you drop back and make a dozen or 15 big time throws as opposed to 2 in a game?
That's going to be the question. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. A lot of draft capital spent on these QBs. 6 in the top 12. I mean, it's just, if you don't have one, you got to keep shooting your shot for them. I mean, you go back through the draft. I mean, there are some unbelievably bad top 15 pick reaches on quarterbacks. And you're like, how did that ever happen? So
6 of, what was it? 6 of the top 13, 12 quarterbacks in 23 of the 32 first round draft picks, offensive players.
Yeah. And all of the first 14. We didn't have a defensive player pick till 15.
It's incredible. Nick Saban they told Nick Saban that stat on air, I think toward the end of the broadcast. And he said, that's the real reason that I retired. The amount of offensive skill out there.
Man, you sat there. I was like, is someone going to draft Dallas Turner?
Yeah. Dallas. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
like, good Lord. Why isn't he like a 4th pick? Like, okay. Game wrecking edge rusher from Alabama. What, are we overthinking this?
I mean,
we've seen this guy.
Yeah. It was wild. I mean, those guys just, I don't know whether they were truly sliding or not, but they just weren't, if there were a couple of offensive linemen taken who may well end up being very good, but I kind of thought we're like, And meanwhile, nobody for defense goes to Latu from UCLA. Edge guy goes to Indianapolis at 15. Yeah.
All right, we're going to be back with the guys we like in this draft that just went wherever, and more on Saban and Belichick after this message. I believe, I may write about this Friday, but I believe that Thursday night, this is basically the broadcast debuts of the, they really could be like a sitcom together, some kind of like maybe Saban and Belichick move into an old, like a independent living facility in Boca Raton together or something. Like roommates. I don't know. I see something there with these two. But Bill Belichick and Nick Saban make their broadcasting debuts. Both are out of work. Saban retired. Belichick, unbelievably. The Falcons didn't want to hire Bill Belichick, but they wanted to have 2 quarterbacks. Okay.
Yeah, some interesting decisions there.
Nobody wanted to interview Bill Belichick. He's got like Robert Kraft kneecapped the dude. Because, Bill Belichick never did anything to inspire loyalty out of, Robert Kraft. He only won him 6 Super Bowls, made him like $4 billion. I don't know how Bill Belichick became like a sympathetic figure, but Robert Kraft managed to do it.
Yeah, it was the evolution of that has been something to watch. Yeah,
yes. You're like, I feel bad for Bill Belichick. Okay, here we are. Football analysis, the business of football analysis, which I suppose we're technically in, but I don't think we actually are trying too hard, is going to get a major boost here. I thought both of them were terrific. I did not get to watch all of them, but I did listen to Belichick some on the McAfee show. He was critical of players. He was critical of picks, and he gave reasons why. And really, it was a terrible format for him because it's like they got like 6 guys on there, so everyone's talking over. Like, do not talk over Belichick. He's going to do something with the Mannings or their company, Omaha Productions. I don't know if he's going on the Manning cast each week. Whatever it is, Bill Belichick's analysis is going to be phenomenal because he doesn't give an F. He will give out Fs, but he doesn't. It's clear he does not care. So he's straight up picking players apart, and he's got that acerbic, sarcastic way and all of that. Meanwhile, Saban, I think he was a little bit more positive, but very colorful, really good insight, and very funny. And he too is just like, he don't care anymore either. Kiss the ring. I'm out. Now I'm just going to do this ESPN thing. So the two of them, to me, are going to be unbelievable to watch, both and however they utilize these guys, both college and pro, and really give a jolt, which can't, 2 70-year-olds giving a jolt to football broadcasting. Pat, how much did you watch of it?
Yeah, I watched Saban the whole time. I did not watch Belichick, but I thought Saban was fantastic. Who was the star of the draft? Nick Saban for me. I just, because, when he talked football, he obviously is great at it and describing intricacies and things that were impressive about players. But then he did have a sense of humor and, some color. And while yes, he was pretty diplomatic, but I'm telling you what, he called out Amarius Mims, Georgia offensive tackle, who was drafted 18th by the Bengals. He said, Mims took himself out of the SEC championship game after 15 plays. And after 15 plays, Georgia was kicking Alabama's ass, and then everything turned around, and he basically said, I don't know. Was he, maybe he was hurt, but he kind of alluded to that guy needs to toughen up. And then later on, he said, he was from a small town. He was always bigger, probably just better than everybody he played against, and now that's not going to be the case. So he was pretty veiled critical there. And then, I just thought he cut through some of the natural jokey joke, ha, 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 ha stuff with just like, you know what, I'm here to talk about football. And he was great at it. I liked everything about Saban in that role. And he also, for a dude who's, 71 or whatever, hung in for all 4 hours till midnight. So it was good.
He is. He's a natural, and he's obviously done it before when Alabama's not been in playoffs and stuff like that. He's been on broadcast, and I feel like it was in somebody's book. It may have been in good friend John Tulty's, one of his books, that Nick Saban had agreed with ESPN to be on College Game Day like 10 years ago, like 2013 or 2014, because he knew and they knew how good he was, and we're seeing it. He's extremely polished. He's obviously incredibly knowledgeable about football, but Pat nailed it. Like, he does have a sense of humor that not a lot of people saw in his press conferences, but he really does. And if you've been around him a bit, he has not just a sense of humor, but he kind of has an air about him where he's a nice guy. He's a nice, polite guy, and that kind of has come across a little bit when he's on the air. And one thing he did that I found fascinating when he was coach, gasp if you ever asked him about comparing players to one another. And he did that in his job at ESPN. Now he's got to do that, right? And he did do that. And that was kind of fascinating. But he had the line of the draft. It was the most interesting thing because, Dan, I don't like the draft. I really don't like the draft. So I try not to watch a lot of it.
Listened on the radio.
I was traveling, so it was perfect. But I did listen to some of it, and so I did listen to Saban a lot. And the most interesting thing was something I thought that he said about Toledo cornerback Quinion Mitchell.
Oh, well, yes.
which was, he tried to get Quinyon, Alabama did, into the portal to get him, basically acknowledging we tried to tamper with Quinyon to convince him to get in the portal so we could get him. And man, talk about the highest of compliments.
Yeah, that was an
one
interesting comment. He's like, yeah, he was the one guy we wanted in the portal.
I got the quote.
But then he didn't get in the portal. Yeah. Okay.
Let me just back up. The thing about Saban, what I wanted to know, because when he's coaching, he's kind of got to hedge stuff. Like, I want these guys to come out and just blast people if they need blasting. Coaches, players, whatever. Just be like, I'm Nick Saban. Deal with it. I don't care. Because half these analysts, they either want to get back into coaching or it's the old boys club, right? And I want him to be like, I don't really care if you don't like me. I'm going with Miss Terry to the lake. And I'll say whatever the hell I want to say on ESPN because I got seven national championships. Deal with it. Here was his quote on the Toledo cornerback. He was our number one guy in the portal last year to try to get him to come out of the portal, and he would never get in the portal. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Now, Nick has talked to Congress about how horrible everything is, this transfer portal, and there's no loyalty. And, I don't know if he specifically addressed tampering, but we know coaches tampering is the worst. Who would tamper? Seems like he was tampering with Toledo's quarterback.
How about what if Toledo had a corner who turned down Nick Saban to stay at Toledo?
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked out. He's a first-round pick.
How about that? I mean,
yeah.
Don't need you,
look,
coach.
I don't think Toledo's NIL collective is some kind of war chest. So that's impressive. But Jason Candle's built a pretty damn good. I mean, probably if over the last 10 years, 8 to 10 years, he's built the most consistent, probably Group of 5 program there. And players have stayed there when they've been coaxed to leave, just like this.
Well, I wonder too if this is the last Group of 5 first-round pick.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I was honestly thinking of that, and I was calculating, counting them up.
I'm going to say no, but I'm going to take like the field on that one. But it's a good point. The G5 has been significantly weakened, and shoot, Dan. I mean, to bring it back to all the fun stuff I cover. This week in Dallas, that was a big topic of discussion. Was the week in G5 and how they get a automatic access spot in the CFP at CFP meetings in Dallas. That was certainly a talking point.
I mean, if you develop yourself after 2 or 3 years, you have that opportunity to go to. I mean, you got Nick Saban. Well, you won't anymore, but a Nick Saban type guy trying to get you to come out. You just go for that last year and then you're an Alabama guy. So you might have developed that wherever. Like the Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
Was he 4th overall pick out of the University of Buffalo? Like that isn't going to happen again.
No, that's not. Well, look at Jared Verse, ends up going from, he was a first-round pick from Florida State, but he started at Albany. Ain't nobody that good staying at Albany ever again.
I think there were 9 transfers picked in the first round of the 32. There were 9. I don't know how many of those were at G5. That would be like previously at G5. That would be interesting to kind of figure out there because, conceivably those players may have been G5 first round picks and now they're not. In fact, I think I love these draft. I hate the draft, Dan, but as I mentioned before, but
kind of warming to it. Kind of warming.
I do like the draft stat, especially when it relates to college football and conferences. This is from Stu Mandel. 75% of the first round picks were from schools that will be in the Big Ten or SEC next season. That was an interesting and one that's probably not too surprising when you go back 10 years. the SEC and Big Ten combined for about 170 first-round picks, and everybody else is under that, I believe, more like a 140 or 150. So it's yeah, the gap is growing. We talk about it in the show a lot. And then last stat here I think is really interesting is about recruiting rankings. This is from Sports Source Analytics. Of the 32 first rounders, 5 were 5 stars, 14 were 4 stars, and how about this? 12 first rounders came out as 3-star prospects. One player was not rated at all. Pat mentioned him already, Jared Verse.
It's wild. I mean, but that, you know what? I think we have learned, certainly in football, but even more in basketball, as good as much better as the recruiting services are, there's still a lot of guesswork in here. A lot of guys they just miss on, and probably the pandemic exacerbated that here, where you weren't seeing as many players and they weren't going out and doing as much stuff. But still, man, for all those players out there, you are not a finished product at 18. Don't give up and don't overinflate yourself. Both ways.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge part of this. Is just sort of like it's how you develop as you go, body types. This is so much. Darius Robinson, we mentioned earlier, to Arizona. He signed with Missouri. We just happened to look him up. He was ranked as the 31st best player in Michigan coming out.
He played football late. He was a basketball guy.
Yeah, basketball player. He was ranked. He was a 3-star, 24/7 composite or whatever. But he was the 31st best player in Michigan. He went 27th in the draft, and I don't know if anybody from Michigan was ahead of him. There's a lot of guys that thought they were better than him, and it didn't turn out. So anything goes. All right. Last part of this, who on this thing, like I call this like the Baltimore pick. The Ravens always just get a guy.
Yes, always.
It's like this sitting around. All of a sudden, you're like, Ravens get Kyle Hamilton. You're like, my goodness, that's going to work. Yeah. Now, I don't know. You know, I'm not saying these guys should have been drafted higher. I'm not saying they should, whatever. Guys, you just sit there and go, this kid is going to be good. I got no doubt. Bust potential is low. Like we said, JJ McCarthy, hey man, he may turn out to be incredible, but I don't know, right? Bo Nix, I don't know. A lot of things. Who in here did you just sit there and go, man, that was a nice pick?
Yeah. Other than Xavier Worthy, I've already talked about that. My guy is absolutely Troy Fautano, who's going to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh has done a lot of great drafting over a long period of time, and this is a Pittsburgh pick. To me, offensive guard, tackle, center from Washington, 6'4", 317. And, obviously Washington was a great team. But so I remember very distinctly being at the Sugar Bowl and listening to him talk, and the Texas defensive lineman, one of whom, Byron Murphy, was a first-round pick, and Devondre Sweat will be a second-round pick, I am sure. I mean, they had some studs and some maulers, and Texas kind of had almost thinly veiled disdain for the physicality of the Washington line. And Fautano, you could tell he was like simmering. It's like, we'll see. And I watched a lot because it was a very interesting matchup. Watched him play against those guys, and he handled them. He was really good. He's athletic, but he's also fierce and physical and violent. And he can play at least 2 positions, if not 3. And to get him at number 20 for the Steelers, I think that's a perfect pick. And I will say, too, that that was one. Saban on the broadcast said he'll be an All-Pro. I mean, Saban loved him. So I'm riding with Nick Saban there.
Well, mine is also a Washington player, Rome Odunze, pick 9, round 1, going to the Bears. I have Caleb Williams there as quarterback. I saw a lot of receivers this year. I ended up voting Rome Odunze in my top 3 of the Heisman. I was really impressed by him, and I think, especially with the quarterback situation with Caleb, that I'm sure that who did we say that Rome should have gone to, Dan? What did you mention earlier about
he could have gone to Atlanta.
Could have
That's
gone to
the pick
Atlanta.
he went the pick
Right.
after that to Chicago.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Back-to-back Washington players. So, yeah, Rome is the guy for me in the first round. Guy kind of circle and be that all pro kind of lock player.
Well, I was happy. This is really hard to say is the 4th pick of the draft, but I was glad Marvin Harrison Jr. went 4th in the draft. I try not to pay attention to the draft, the pre-draft stuff, and then you hear it, guys sliding, he's dropping, he's climbing. Where? Climbing where? on a draft. I used to do mock drafts in the NBA. I mean, I don't care I don't care who you have as your mock guy. It's just, it's a mockery. Forget it. Marvin Harrison Jr. was the most obvious pick. You might have even tweeted that, Pat, did you? Like
I said, he's the surest thing in the draft.
Like, what are we doing here? Well, I might be the 3rd. Like, are you kidding me? Did anybody watch him play? He didn't sign his NFLP. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. I don't care.
No.
He did everything else.
Yeah. When you're trying to throw a fade on 3rd and 8 in the red zone, guess what? He's going to catch it for a touchdown.
Marv is going to get it done. Like, I just am like, okay, thank you. At least he's something. Guy I thought who I was really rooting for to get picked, but I think his injury pushed him out of the first round. But I have zero doubt he hasn't been picked yet. But somebody is going to get Zach Frazier, the center from West Virginia. That dude that guy's a great football player. Again, I'm not scouting these guys. I ain't breaking down tapes. I ain't doing any of that. But guess what? None of these other guys know either. But I do know that when I watch whenever I watched West Virginia the last couple of years, wasn't a whole doubt that the center was dominating the game. So someone's going to get a good player on him.
Look at you scouting centers.
It's pretty obvious how good Zach Frazier is. When you notice the center,
right.
Like, God, that guy's
moving
killing
people down the field.
Yeah,
we don't need Cole Kublik on this pod. We got Wetzel to break it.
There you go.
Breaking it down. What was his technique? He just pushed the dudes around, snapped the ball, and kicked someone's ass. I don't know.
He'll go day 2, I'm assuming.
He should. Should go pretty soon.
Are you gonna make me watch day 2?
I think you should. I really think you should.
Is it gonna be assigned?
I really don't. I don't want to watch day 2, Dan.
I think you should.
That's so funny. Are you gonna make me?
Come on. Anybody else? You want to praise? Say something nice?
Shoot. Yeah, no, I can say a lot of nice things. Again, I think Brock Bowers is just going to be great. I think he's going to be Shannon Sharp. He may not be a great blocker, but he's so athletic and has ridiculous hands, and he'll be a killer. He'll be killing the Broncos.
I mean, one of the most fascinating things to me is, Dan, you brought it up earlier, but Jayden Daniels, right? I mean, like, how will he fare in the NFL? We had these questions about quarterbacks that come out that are kind of in a similar mold and playing style in the past, and it has kind of been hit or miss a little bit. So I'm really interested to see how he'll fit in the pro leagues with how much that he runs the ball, and then how much he gets out of the pocket, and how thin he is, even though he packed on like 15 pounds over the summer or so before this past season. I'm sure NFL teams will want him to pack on 15 more, maybe more.
Could be. All right. Quick people's court here to end this.
Here we go.
A Belgian man was acquitted of drunk driving because he has auto brewery syndrome.
Oh my God. What? Only in
ABS.
Belgium.
Several people sent us this one.
Yeah.
Really?
ABS, Ross. ABS. You don't know about
ABS.
auto brewery syndrome. An
Wow.
extremely rare condition whereby the body produces alcohol, his lawyer said. His lawyer also said in another unfortunate coincidence, her client worked at a brewery. So auto brewery syndrome and works at a brewery. And so I guess this guy wasn't, the story's a little confusing in the Belgian law.
I'm a bit confused already.
But he tested positive for being, he was not showing signs of being drunk, but in some kind of a safety stop, he tested positive for alcohol. And the defense was that his body just produces alcohol.
He's a brewery. He's a walking brewery.
Brews its own
Walking, talking brewery.
alcohol.
And driving, apparently, too.
So that's why he tested positive, because of this auto brewery syndrome.
I mean, come on.
Is this real? Now, that's the question. But just so you know, I'm just laying out the facts of the case here. You know, just a reporter doing his job
being
here.
A good reporter. That's right.
Yeah, just the facts, ma'am. 3 doctors independently examined him and confirmed he had ABS, according to the lawyer. So is this
Were these
real?
doctors tested? Were they given breathalyzers before?
Is this real, or is this just like he came home drunk one time? His wife's like, "You got drunk at the brewery with the guys after work." No, and then he got like his buddy who's a doctor to say, no. Billy here, he brews his own alcohol internally. And that's how he got out of trouble. I think that's how this disease was invented. I don't know.
I will say this. Man, what a gift. Think how much money you could save.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You know?
I'm jealous. Right.
I'm just finishing my second Sierra Nevada of the pod here, and I'm thinking, gosh, if I could brew my own 12-pack internally, then I don't have to go buy one for like $18. So.
Especially if you could control it, turn it off and on. Yeah, ooh, I feel like a beer. I feel like a couple of beers right now. Let me just brew this thing up.
Yeah, not 9 a.m. I got to work today, but
right,
let me turn on the tap.
But it's cocktail hour. Oh, Ross, you want to go to happy hour? No, I've already brewed 3 beers already. I'm good. That would be nice. Save a few bucks.
Yeah. So, no, I'm going with it. I believe it. I believe in it. Mm-hmm. I aspire to be that guy. Yes. He's acquitted. All charges are dropped. Our man is free to go.
Dan, there's a card game. You lay down you're trying to get rid of your cards, you lay them down face down, and you call out what it is, and if you got pairs, you can lay down pairs. If you got trips, you can lay down trips all at once. If you got quads, you can lay down quads. You got four twos, you lay it down, but it's flat. And the other players, if they don't believe you, they call.
Yeah.
The game is this guy. All right, I'm calling bullshit.
Oh, wow.
I found another article. He's hanging out with his wife. See, yeah, his body
gave us nothing, reporter. What?
His body was essentially brewing its own booze every time he ate carbs. This is Newsweek.
Oh, come on.
Leading him to feel and appear drunk. His blood alcohol level would go as high as 0.30.
What?
Jesus.
When he ate a big plate of pasta. This guy was like, let's go get some Italian, hon. Let's go get some Italian.
That loaf of French bread over there.
You know what he would do at the Endless Pasta down at Olive Garden? This guy.
Jesus.
Carrying him out of Olive Garden every night.
He felt off, but it didn't click in his brain that he was intoxicated. Yes, it did. You knew. How do you not know you're drunk?
How can I be the only guy defending this guy? Come on. I mean,
Oh, this is a hustle.
he's a pod hero. Come on.
These doctors are saying it's real. In one case from 2015, a New York woman who claimed to have ABS was pulled over for driving on a flat tire and blew a .40.
Oh, God. Yeah,
It's often considered fatal. She felt merely a bit wobbly on her feet.
Oh, see? These people are innocent.
In a separate incident, it always gets good at the end of these stories when people just cobble it. The reporters
just
throw some junk in there.
Yeah, they just do like Google searches.
Yeah.
You can tell what's happening because I've done it myself. You Google search, say, "Have this happened before?" And then you pull up all this shit and you throw it in there in a paragraph.
In a separate incident, 2015, an Oregon man who also claimed to have ABS was convicted on a DUI charge after he crashed his truck into a telephone pole, spilling 11,000 salmon across the highway.
Oh, man.
So clearly Oregon wasn't buying this ABS thing.
No. Well, if you're going to spill 11,000 salmon in Oregon, you should go to jail.
You bet, yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's a lot of salmon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dude's got a big plate of pasta. I get absolutely hammered. He's like, another piece of lasagna? Yeah. So good.
No, you've already had 2 pieces of lasagna. We're cutting you off.
Absolutely incredible. I don't believe this. I do not believe this.
Bull.
Yeah.
No, I'm standing by our guy.
Pat. Born at night, not last night. The old ABS. I'm with the people of Oregon. That some jury was like, nah. You crashed into that pole because you're a drunk. All right.
Speaking of that, let's wrap this up. I got to get another beer, Dan. Come on.
All right. That's the pod. That's our draft pod. You know, we don't always rarely wade into the NFL, but here we are. Hope you enjoyed it. If you don't normally listen to our college football talk. We'll be back on Monday. Enjoy the rest of the draft and if you live in Detroit, they need like 400,000 more of you to show up. Set the record. They're going to set the record. Share us on social media, subscribe, tell your friends about us. Talk to you later.